This is Guanajuato, another city in the Central Highlands of Mexico. I've heard it said that this is the prettiest town in all of Mexico. I've only been here a short time, but it certainly is in the running. I'm here for just a few hours, so it's going to be my quest to bring you as much as I can in a short period of time. We'll get to everything, don't expect that, but I'm sure you'll see some things that you'll like. I will take you along in the same order in which I experienced the different sights and attractions of Guanajuato. I got off of the bus directly in front of Mercado Hidalgo, so immediately I went inside. There's a lot to be said for checking out the main market space, to get a sense of the community and to become familiar with the people who live there. This is a two-level market. Most of what is on the ground floor is designed to appeal to residents of the town for whom this is their Walmart, their major grocery chain. Top floor stalls generally sold tourist souvenirs and other such items. The produce offered on the ground floor looked spectacular with a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. Each vendor's display looked more appealing than the last. In every market that I've visited in Mexico, there have been spaces dedicated to prepared food. That was taken to a completely different level here. The number of those places and the quality of the offerings exceed anything that I had seen before. Those cooking up items for the public were generous as well, in one instance handing me a sample of what was being prepared. Just outside of the main building were 2 floors of fondas, or semi-permanent food locations. I have no idea how you choose one over the others. This does not look like other markets or mercados that I've seen. The story goes that this was built to be a train station, but the trains never came. So, lucky us that it was put to good use. The concept for the building emerged in 1905, but by the time the station was completed in 1910, the proposed railway had already been scrapped. Almost immediately, the President of Mexico pivoted to use the building as a market, and it has served that purpose ever since. The Mercado is named after Miguel Hidalgo, a priest who was instrumental in the first Mexican victory in the War for Independence. That victory came right here in Guanajuato. I'm about to take you into the Museo de los Mummies. Translated, that means Museum of the Mummies. So if you're at all squeamish about death, mummified remains, you might want to skip forward a little bit. But I have to tell you, this is one of the most unique museums that I've ever witnessed. You were warned. The museum contains 10 or more rooms that hold the remains of around 60 corpses in total. In all, the collection of mummies is said to number 111. It is a surreal experience walking through the exhibit and being surrounded by all of these bodies. The way they have been frozen forever can be a bit haunting. One of the more interesting aspects for me was that many were still covered in the clothing and shoes in which they were buried. Supposedly, this is the smallest mummy in the world, a fetus whose mother died while pregnant. Most of those who were seen here were victims of a cholera epidemic which lasted from 1829 to 1851. Bodies were buried quickly in hopes of stopping the spread of the disease. The climate here provides conditions that are conducive for natural mummification. Over the years, a tax charge for permanent space in a cemetery was not paid in some instances, so the bodies were exhumed and stored in a building. People began paying a few pesos to see the dead as early as the late 1800s, and eventually the museum was opened in 1969. It sits right on top of the site where the first mummies were discovered. This has got to be one of the most unusual museums in the entire world, and for those who can handle the subject matter, I would consider it a must when visiting Guanajuato. Back in the world of the living, I stopped by a moderately attractive church located in the heart of town near the market. This is the Parroquia and Templo of Belen, or the parish and temple of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. It was built in 1775. The interior of the structure is impressive, and a vault under the altar is said to contain 300 crypts. An even more spectacular church and the centerpiece of the town is not that far away. This is the Basilica Colegiata de Nuestra Señora de Guanajuato. Nuestra Señora translates to Our Lady and refers to a virgin who is the patron saint and queen of the city. The church sits on the Plaza de la Paz, which is a beautiful space, and in the center of a number of streets set aside for pedestrians. The church was built between 1671 and 1696. One thing that struck me was the way the building looked at different times of the day. It was nice early when the sun was at its back, but it was absolutely dazzling later in the day when sunshine bathed the front of the structure. Once I had seen all of that, it was time for my morning drink. I stopped into a place called Parroquia 16. There, the barista, who I believe to be the owner, took great care to create a cup for me that would be memorable. My drink of choice has evolved in the short time that I've been here in Mexico. I started off with my usual cappuccino, then I went over to chocolate because that's such a big part of the culture here. Just recently I found this though. This is chocolate blanco, white chocolate. It is so good having that white chocolate flavor in the form of a warm drink. I know not everyone is a fan of white chocolate, but it's always been one of my favorites. Discovering that I can have hot chocolate with that flavor has been an epiphany. This was a pleasant space to sit and enjoy a break. I just swung by the Callejon del Beso, or Alley of the Kiss, for a moment. The story is that forbidden lovers lived on opposite sides of the alley and were able to steal kisses across the narrow space. People pay 50 pesos each to go up and recreate the legend. Being old and alone, I passed. My next stop was at the Teatro Juárez. This is an opulent building that many consider to be one of the most gorgeous theaters in Mexico. It was built over a couple of decades, right at the end of the 19th century. It is said to be a good example of Mexican neoclassical architecture. With a number of statues on the grounds and some intricate sculptures on the building itself, it is definitely worth seeing. There is a huge statue in Guanajuato, situated at the top of a hill with amazing views. The statue is a monument to El Pipila. It was erected to honor the bravery of the people of the city and their efforts during the Mexican War of Independence. The statue is 84 years old this year. It's made of pink stone, weighs more than 800 tons, and stands an imposing 20 meters tall on its pedestal. The statue is striking, but so is what you can see from here. You have to gain a little elevation to make sure that Guanajuato shines the best that it can. Look at this scene. These houses and buildings, all the different colors, it's so incredible. This is worth coming to the city just to see this. From this height, all of the city sits down below. This is where you can get above street level and see the way the incredible colors of the buildings combine to form something special. There were tons of other people at the viewpoint when I visited, all relaxing and taking in the panorama. The trip to and from that spot was astounding. You can walk up and down, and it's not that far, but the better way to travel is on the funicular. Goes up, goes down. It is about $4 round trip. You can have $2 for one way, but it's probably best because it's a short ride to go round trip. The dual tracks carry one car each way. I rode by myself up and down. The trip one way takes just a little over a minute and a half. The funicular has been in operation since 2001 and covers just a little more than 100 meters, scaling and descending a 30-degree grade. The look of the city and its buildings might be even more spectacular as you are rising or falling than it is from the stationary position on the hill. There was one more church of note to see. This is the Templo de San Francisco. What you see has a variety of elements completed at a wide range of times over the centuries. Part of the structure dates to the 16th century, while it wasn't fully finished until late in the 19th century. The designs of the churches in town are notable, but I was especially smitten by the color of the stones used to build them. There was no way it could rival the Museum of the Mummies, but I did visit the Museum of the Pueblo of Guanajuato during the afternoon. It is a pleasant space with exhibits ranging from historic artifacts to pieces of art produced by famous residents of the town. One area pays tribute to some of the heroes of the Mexican War of Independence. The collections are situated in a sweet building that was once the home of an owner of one of the area's silver mines. Traveling around the city, you will notice that traffic appears to move in only one direction. That's because vehicles moving the other way are in tunnels and corridors below the surface. You will find places to walk down into the tunnels, and it is absolutely worth going to see.
These tunnels and passageways weren't designed to handle traffic. They were actually created in the 19th century as a way to control the Guanajuato River. The river would flood during the rainy season, so the idea was to move the river to a lower level to make the town more secure.
You will notice that the houses in this section extend out and above the road. That is because when they were built, this was the location of the river, and the houses were positioned to sit above the surface of the water. The river stayed in this channel for a while, but then was moved even lower. That, combined with a couple of dams, have eliminated any issues with flooding. Traffic now flows through the tunnels, which were reinforced to accommodate them. In general, eastbound traffic uses the tunnels, while vehicles moving to the west use surface streets. It certainly creates a unique flow of traffic and can be a bit confusing. There is a tremendous amount of beauty on the surface in Guanajuato. It's possible to spend hours simply wandering the streets and alleys, stopping by the numerous plazas that provide gathering spots within the city. I didn't get the opportunity to spend hours doing that, but I got to see plenty. My main meal of the day came at a restaurant called Los Huacales. I ordered what was a variation of chilaquiles. This one was made with what appeared to be fried cheese. It was okay, but I missed the tortilla chips, which usually come with that dish when I order it. I stayed overnight at a place called Las Alamedas. It was comfortable, clean, and inexpensive. Finally, as is tradition, I ended the day with a brew in a place called the Beer Company. The IPA was nice and cold, and I grabbed a seat next to the window on the second floor. I was happy.
That's it, my look at Guanajuato. It's a beautiful city, and I already know that I should have stayed here longer. I don't think I was able to do it justice. Leave in the comments down below some of the things that I might have missed. That might help out some of the other viewers to find some other things that they want to do if they ever come to Guanajuato. Thanks so much for being here on Old, Alone, and Far From Home. I will see you next time.